Let's take a look at a fairly complex example. We're going to work with the camera. Looking at the documentation for the camera, there's a couple things we need to do here. First, we need to set an Android minimum SDK version to 21 in our Android app build Gradle. And we're also going to have to work with some permissions here because, well, let's face it, if you're going to work with the camera, you need to work with permissions. So let's just dive into this thing. Let's go here. Let's go Android app. There's our build Gradle. Here's our min SDK version at 16. I'm going to switch this to 21. Save that. I'm going to restart the whole application. I'm actually just going to stop it and rerun the whole thing, make it recompile. Running Gradle WAssembly debug. There we go. Should be working. While that's going, you notice there were absolutely 0 photos on this device. We're going to work with the camera, and even though this is an emulator, it has a built-in emulated camera, so we're going to work with that. Let's jump in here. Let's go ahead and install this into pubspec YAML. Here we go. And we're also going to be working with permissions, so let's grab our trusty simple permissions. All right, we should be good to go on that. Before we can really do it though, we need to, you guessed it, add some permissions. I'm going to copy these and let's go into our manifest file here. We're going to request full access to the camera along with writing to storage. Let's go ahead and do our imports. All right, we should have pretty much everything that we need. For the sake of time, I'm going to just copy and paste out of our previous example the function to convert a string to a permission. We're also going to want to get a list of cameras here. So I'm going to say list. I want camera description, cameras. Because every device can have, more than one camera. I've got a couple phones and one of them has 2 cameras. A friend of mine's got a phone that's got 3 cameras. That's just weird, but all right. So let's go ahead and do our main function here. We're going to convert this into an async call. And we're going to say cameras. We want to await the available cameras. And let's go ahead and get some permissions here. We want simple permissions dot request permission, and we're going to do a permission from string. Let's grab storage, and let's do the same thing for camera. Maybe, if I can find the permission here. There it is. Seems like that would have been a little simpler. Anyway, so we're requesting the permissions for storage and camera, and then we're just simply going to run our application. Let's go ahead and save this, stop it, and let's rerun it and make sure it actually runs on the emulator and everything's working as expected. Might take just a second to build this up. All right, allow photos, yes. Allow pictures and video, yes. There we go. So our application's on, the permissions are cached, and we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and take a look at this. we're going to be in our state. We're going to init the state. And we're also going to, why did it put down there? I hate that. Let's put this up here. Add dispose in there as well because, well, we're going to be working with hardware. We want to make sure that we're done. Oops, don't have my variable yet. Let's put my controller in here. So we're going to make a camera controller, and we're going to call this controller. And for the sake of time, because you've watched me type this before, boom, I'm just going to put a scaffold key in here. And I'm going to set that key before I forget. There we go. And let's get some permissions going too. So we've got two references to permissions, camera, and storage that we're going to be working with here. We're just going to double check that we indeed have permission to do what we're trying to do so we don't kill the application. So we're going to simply dispose of this. Notice the question mark before the period. And we're going to work with our init state here. And this is going to be a bit of our code here is going to be right here in the init state. The reason being, we need to make sure that we can actually do what we say we're going to do with this application. So we've got a bit of work ahead of us. So let's say controller, camera controller, and I want cameras. I want the first camera because we're in emulator. And let's do resolution preset medium. So what we're really doing here is we're saying we want the first camera in the list and we want medium resolution. So we're not going to take super high def pictures with this thing. Then we want to initialize our controller. And let's get this. So once our controller has been initialized, then we want to say if not mounted, then we're just going to go ahead and return out of this. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and set state. And I'm just putting that in there for reference that once it's initialized and mounted, we can set state and do whatever we wanted to do for camera, like if you wanted to set certain settings or anything like that. Now, let's go ahead and get our permissions. And I'm going to say permission camera. Let's see here. Actually, let's do it this way. Just going to grab these, grabbing stuff out of my notes in case it wasn't obvious what I was doing off the screen here. Did I misspell that? I did. There we go. So we are grabbing our two permissions here, the permission camera, permission storage. And we're just going to hold those in memory because what we're going to do later is we're going to check and make sure that we actually have the permission to do that. Let's save our work. I'm going to kill that, rerun it. Just want to make sure it still runs as expected because we did a lot of work with the camera there. Allow. And entering camera mode. And we can rotate and do all sorts of stuff. But we don't have an actual camera yet. So let's go ahead and put a camera on here. Let's kill that. And let's build our interface up here. So first thing we're going to do, going to space evenly, and then let's do our cross-axis alignment, center. We're just going to grab those. All right, so we got a row here. Let's go ahead and add some children. So what I'm doing now is I'm just putting buttons across the top of where we're going to have the camera preview. So we're going to take a picture, and let's grab this. All right, so we have our simple permissions open settings. Now what we're going to do here is get rid of this guy. Say new aspect ratio. And we want an aspect ratio of, let's just say 1.0. And the child, let's say equal new camera preview with our controller. What is this thing complaining about? Too many positions found. I think I put this in the wrong spot here. There we go. All right, so what we should have now is we should have 2 buttons across the top along with a camera preview. Let's go ahead and run that again, just to make sure everything's working as expected. Okay, so now we have got our emulator with a disabled take picture because we haven't written the code yet. We've got our settings so we can verify our permissions. We have camera, microphone, storage, and we have a nice little preview. And we should be able to click on this and then hold down Alt and move the mouse, and we can move the camera around. And this would be like moving the physical camera around. There we go. So now we want to actually write the code for taking the picture. So part of taking the picture is we need a place to put the picture, aka we need to write to storage, which is why we've got that storage in there. So let's go ahead and kill this. We're going to make a future string. Call this save image. And let's do a string timestamp. New date time now. And I want milliseconds since, and let's just say toString. And that's not a function. There we go. Let's get that out of there. So basically we're just grabbing the current time in milliseconds. And now we're going to grab the file path itself. And I'm just going to copy and paste this out of my notes because it's a bit to type and I don't want to screw it up because it would be interesting to debug later. There we go. So /storage emulated /0/pictures and then the file name. This should put this in the emulator in the photos on the device. I think there's a couple different spots on Android, but that's the one that I found just poking around. And then we'll say if controller, I want value, is taking picture. That way if the user's just mashing the take picture button, we're going to do absolutely nothing. We don't want to try to take a picture while we're taking a picture. That could be very bad. And then we're just going to say try await. And we're going to just take picture and we're going to say file path. There we go. Now, just in case something bad happened, we want to be able to catch that. And what we're going to say here is on camera exception catch E. And we want to know that something bad did indeed happen here. So a little bit of copy and paste magic here. We've used this before, just showing snack bar. We're going to say scaffold current state showing snack bar and then whatever message. And we're just going to E to string. Might be the biggest snack bar in history. We don't know, but let's throw that in there. And then we want to return the file path. So that's the save image. To use save image, we need to actually take a picture. So what we're going to do now is make the function that we're going to call out of the raise button press, and that's just simply going to be called take picture. That's in a sync. And we're going to say bool we're going to check our permissions. I forgot our await. I was looking at that going, why is that complaining all of a sudden? There we go. So we've got that. All right, so basically what we're doing is we're checking to see if we have these, and then if we don't have the permissions, so for example, if we say if not has storage, or, and I don't like using the not because that confuses some folks. It's a little bit more verbose, but it's more concise. So we're just checking to see if we have the permissions, and if we don't, we're just going to show in snack bar, hey, you should have accepted the permissions, and do nothing. Now, let's go ahead and actually take the picture here. So we're going to say save image. Now we're going to say if mounted and file path is not null. Help if I spelled file path correctly. I'm not having a good typing day here. There we go. If file path not equal null, then we're going to go ahead and just show a notification here. There we go. Let's update this with take picture. Rerun the whole thing, and it should just work. Now, while it's running, something to note that if you are using an older emulator, for example, I'm using the Nexus 5 API 27, sometimes this thing would actually die on me. All right, so I saw an error. Insufficient storage. Ooh, that's not good. Let's see if we got enough storage to take a picture here. So I'm going to move the camera around. Picture saved. All right, so let's go into our photos on our device. I may have to back it out and back it in. There it goes. There's our picture. And we can click on it in all its glory. Let's back this out. And let's look at the emulator again. Let's try and move this one more time. Whoops, grab the whole emulator. Let's take a picture like that. And we've taken another picture. So you can see it works, and it's fairly simple, fairly easy. And if we go in here and let's just play around with the settings here. Permission, let's just get rid of storage. See, the first thing it does is says, hey, I need this permission. I'm going to deny that. And then let's try to take a picture and see what happens. It says lacking permissions to take a picture. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple example. There is a million things you can do to make this better, but I wanted to just very simply and easily show what it would take to do something like accessing the hardware on the end device.